Hello, 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 and welcome to the Mystic Nerd Squad podcast. You guys, it is a special day. I have had a little bit of a hiatus for some family stuff, and I'm coming back on today with one of my really good friends in the virtual world and in the book world, the writing, publishing, speaking your truth and healing world, Ryan Hall. And you guys, today's his birthday. I feel so honored that Ryan would celebrate part of his birthday with us here in the Mystic Nerd Squad podcast. So make sure you give him lots of love, send those happy birthday vibes. Am I allowed to ask which birthday this is or what beautiful year you were born in?
Yes, no, absolutely. First of all, thank you for that. But yeah, no, today is birthday number 45.
Same. I just had mine in November, so we're the same age. So that's good. We have all of the references from the 80s that we can, litter through the whole podcast.
Yeah, yeah, references from the 80s that I just kind of slept through because I was in diapers for part of it. But yeah,
The latter part.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, at least the latter part, exactly.
So, Ryan, I want to start out. I got so excited. There were so many things that we could talk about, and we could probably put together a whole weekend's worth of content to talk about the things that we both get really geeked out on. But specifically today, we wanted to talk about the healing power of storytelling. And just before we came on live, you were sharing your first novel. First of all, folks, I didn't say, Ryan is a published author, a podcaster, and a publisher. So he's got a few awesome things, and also a really, like me, a heart led coach. So, any offering we have for you today on the process of healing through storytelling is going to be really meaningful for you. So, if you're someplace right now where you can just sit and grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and check this out, this is going to be really healing and powerful for you. So, before we came on, Ryan, you were sharing your first novel. If you want to hold that up for the folks who are watching on video, Written in the Stone. And so
Yes.
I'm going to let you take it because I know, like me, being a podcaster, you have a very eloquent ability to just speak from the heart. So take it
Well,
away,
thank you.
Ryan.
Well, thank you. And yeah, by the way, this for those of y'all watching on video, this is the original cover. If you check out my Amazon listing, I do have an updated cover for this book. But just a little bit of background on this book. My first novel, it came out in 2015. Um, it's about a man named Ethan. Now, Ethan he's like a globe-trotting magazine reporter, like think Time magazine here. And he's originally from a little small town in Alabama, not unlike yours truly. But he also gained a little bit of notoriety that he did not want when he was held hostage covering the war in the Middle East. And and the if you've ever read it, the very first sequence is a raid from a Navy SEAL team, and that was the very first image that I had in my mind. And there's definitely some political intrigue, like if you've ever seen All the President's Men, I kind of borrow very heavily from the at least the film version of that for Written in the Stone. But as I went along, there became a very powerful message that I was getting about one particular character in this book, Ethan's mother, who named Terry. Now, Terry, um, in the book, and I'm not going to give away too much here, but there needs to be a little context. Terry is active alcoholics, so like severe depression and stuff like that. And as I was writing this, I was rebounding, so to speak, from losing my own mother some number of years before the book came out. And that 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 book, and particularly that character, became such a powerful way, I believe, for me to really start to heal from losing my mom, who who had a lot of the same issues. There was some depression, some substance abuse, stuff like that. And how I ended up doing it was I ended up, I guess, subconsciously rewriting how I wished her story would have ended.
Hmm.
And to me, that's just like it just really kind of grew and grew, and it was something I wasn't even realizing that I was doing. I wasn't even realizing I was doing it at the time, but it again, it became a really powerful way for me to, I guess, not really to say goodbye, um, but just to, I guess, rebound and heal from a pretty significant blow.
Mm. Yeah. I love that. And I love how you shared that, like, in the writing process, some of it is not so contrived. Like sometimes it's like what's coming through, and the characters come to life and they sort of tell you where they want their story to go versus you
Exactly.
dictating exactly where it's supposed to go. And that really does speak to the healing power in storytelling.
Yeah, no, no, totally. And just to kind of add on to that is is that yes, written in the stone, it is a work of fiction, but it is very much based off of real life incidents in my own life. And I mean, you can share these kind of things all you want, but if there's not like, as you so eloquently put earlier, that kind of heart centered truth around it, then the story is just going to read hollow and kind of inauthentic.
Mm, yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I think that does sort of make the distinction between a book that you just can't put down because you become so invested in the characters. Like I've seen these t-shirts, I'm like so like do I get that one? Like I'm like attached to fictional characters. That was my childhood. I was, before I was really, a writer, I was a reader of books. Like just couldn't put books down. I would just read until it was gone and then go get the next one. How about you? Were you similar?
Yes, I really was. I got really invested in a lot of in a lot of really older books. Like my dad was a huge reader. I've got a great healing story around him with my second book, but my dad was a huge reader, and I read a lot of his old books. Like I read a lot of his old like Hardy Boys books that he had when he was a kid, that kind of thing. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I was a big reader. I was a big reader. I mean, Dad was into stuff like Carlos Castaneda, and he loved the Lord of the Rings trilogies, which I was never really able to bite into. But
It's a niche thing. Yeah.
it
Some
is,
people
yeah,
are into it, some people aren't. Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was like anything I could get my hands on by C.S. Lewis. Like I loved the way that he created
yeah.
worlds.
I can see that in you too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was just that like attraction to these contrived fantasy worlds. I was also very into Stephen King. Like when I was 12, I'm like still kind of shocked that my parents let me read it. I don't know if they actually knew what was in those books, but I feel like they were like, if she can read the words, like she'll manage the content. It'll be fine.
The book is called Terry. What possibly could be in it?
Yeah, my first into Stephen King was It. So there you go.
Okay, I see you. I see you.
So anyway, yeah. So anything from like just those fantastically written characters with like flaws, but you also fall in love with them. I'm That's always for me like when I'm reading, if I can find a character who is like terribly flawed, but you're really rooting for them, like that gets me excited about a book.
Yeah, and I definitely believe that's the type of writer that I am, is that that I'm able to create characters that there's a lot of truth behind, that
Mm,
there's a lot of truth in, but there's definitely some, that there's like like the old Steely Dan song, there's an old dark spot on your past
mm,
that that comes to light as the story goes on. And
yeah.
that's human beings. What can we say? They're human beings. We're all flawed. We're all imperfect. And that's the type of characters I really love to sink my teeth into.
Yeah. Definitely. So you mentioned you're in your second book, you really kind of took that journey of healing from the loss of your dad. Hello again.
Yes.
Yes, I've actually started reading this one, so I'm excited to hear about it.
Yes, indeed. Well, hello again. There was a lot more intentionality behind this one. Now, I lost my dad back um, back in December of 2014. So it's
Mm.
a little bit more recent. Mom passed away in '09,
Mhm.
but um, but my dad. But just first of all, hello again. My protagonist is a guy named Mike Holiday. Now, Mike is the host of a late night network TV show. And he's married. Early in the book, he's got got a child on the way, and he finds out during the taping of one of his shows that his mother finally passes away from cancer, and the show must go on. But like his mind is just gone at that
Mm.
point. So they go back. He goes back to his little small Alabama hometown. I mean, write what you know, but he goes back to his old Alabama hometown, and when he's there, he sees the shape that his dad is in. Now, at one point, his dad was the most influential blues guitarist. I mean, I mentioned in the book he taught Eric Clapton a few things.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the type of like
Character.
legacy that he has.
Awesome.
And it's really all about falling back in love with your life by
Mm.
being and doing what you do best. Either, making people laugh and interviewing people, or, standing on stage with a Les Paul around your neck, just making the thing howl like a wolf. And um, it's definitely a book about redemption,
Mhm.
but Jimmy Holiday is uh, the dad character, and I took a lot of it from. I read Greg Allman's autobiography as I was working on this, and Mr. Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. But I borrowed, there was a lot of Greg Allman in Jimmy Holiday, but it's mostly my dad. Now, my dad, at one point, if he had gotten a couple of breaks, could have been on that level as a musician. My dad was a keyboard player,
Mm.
and he could have been at that level as a musician. Um, but depression, certain chemical distractions kind of got in his way, and he never really got back into that once I came along. I mean, he chose to get off the road when I came along because he didn't want to be a touring musician with a young son at home, but he
Mm-hmm.
never got back into it. And I, to this day, I believe he regretted it for the rest of his
Mm.
life. But um, but I was very intentional when I was writing Hello Again because I wanted to rewrite the way that I wish that my dad's story would have wound up. And there is I'm not going to give it away, but the, there is a scene, it's kind of late in the book where, Jimmy is on stage at the Beacon Theater in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And to everybody watching and everybody listening, when you read that chapter, you may want to get some Kleenex.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
It's a very subtle thing, but you may want to get some tissues at that chapter when he's
Okay.
on stage with Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi and that big
Nice.
powerhouse band that they have. So, but like I said, I was very intentional with rewriting Tony Hall's story of, what he could have been if he hadn't let those distractions and those, his own depression get in the way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. In just a couple minutes you said something that just like hit me straight in the heart. You said that falling back in love with your life again by doing what you do best. And I was like, man, that's like some good life advice. Really figuring out what is it that you do best and do that. And that is like the key to peace and happiness and joy and
Yeah, totally. It's like getting back to basics.
mm-hmm.
It's like getting back to basics. It's like when when, when I'm in a great writing zone, like I'm floating. That's what I do best. When I'm in a great storytelling zone, or when I'm in a, you know, interviewing somebody on just a killer podcast, that's when I'm at my best. But so often I feel like people they put their dreams in mothballs. They put those aspirations in mothballs. And that, I think, is where a lot of people run into issues of depression and substance abuse when they just get totally disconnected from who they really are.
Oh my gosh, 100%. And we could think of, a dozen recent, situations with people that indicate that
Totally.
that is for sure the case. I think I can appreciate that and, going through my own healing journey and I haven't written, I'm not a fiction writer per se, not that I couldn't, just haven't. But I haven't gone into my whole healing journey. I've done little pieces of it in the chapters that I've written for books. But when I started to feel really good, it's when I embraced, I'm a bit of a nerd. Like when I get excited about a topic, I'm going to nerd out on it. I'm going to, be stumbling over my words and excited and probably too much for the room. And that
A mystic nerd as you were.
a mystic nerd, right? So there are certain things that I can talk about that I just get so excited about, but it makes me a really good podcaster because the people that I've had on my podcast, including you, are people that I have had other conversations with, and I love having conversations with because I don't know where they're going and I know they're going to be really fun and really deep and I'm going to leave feeling like $1,000,000. Like it's the best therapy out there.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. So it's kind of making me feel like this is like the place that you brought it to, like falling back in love with your life, doing what you do best is like the magic key. But this is the message I keep getting. I say is from the universe, God, whoever pokes me on the shoulder and says, go this direction, that what would the world be like? This is my question. What would the world be like if each of us sort of recognize and acknowledge the thing that we love doing the best, and we just offered that to the world in like the most true and raw form without judging or feeling like we have to make it any certain way imperfectly?
The word that comes to mind is flow. Easy. The world would just flow a lot easier. The life would just be a lot more laid back, a lot more comfortable, a lot more easy,
Mm,
and um, that there would be, yeah, it would just be a lot better place to live
mm.
if if we all just embody that, mind, body, and soul.
Yeah, I'm with you. So that's kind of my revolution. Like how do we get people to a point where they feel it's safe to come out and be who you are at the very truest sense. And whatever that means for you as a person, wherever you've been hiding yourself from the world, like let's create a space and a place where people feel safe enough to come out and just be that and not worry of, judgment, because I think it's that like unique piece of things, combination of things that we offer the world that makes it a more exciting and fun place to be.
Really, no, really it is. And just to piggyback on that, there's so much, and it's not just sharing your story, telling your story is not simply about writing. It's not simply about writing. People can share their story through visual art. People can share their story through food. Cooking is a great way to share your story and just come out with just who you really are. There's just so many more ways, but sometimes it's not going to be easy. It's in fact sometimes it's going to be very very difficult. There is a if I could just share this quick story, there's a scene in Hello Again where um where um my character of Mike comes home from school. It's a flashback scene, and Dad is in the middle, like in the depths of his active addiction, but nobody knew it.
Mm,
Like he was hiding it very well. And this is a scene that was taken straight, just directly from a scene that happened in my real life with my own dad when he was in the midst of his active addiction. And I'll never forget, after I wrote that scene, I usually write to music, especially since Hello Again was so musically, centered. I usually write to music, but I wrote this in silence.
wow.
And when I finished, and I don't know, I can't remember if that was intentional or not, but I'll never forget after I wrote that scene, I closed my laptop and just kind of sat in silence for like 3 or 4 minutes until my cell phone rang. That first of all, that was probably the loudest this phone has ever been. Now, admittedly, it was a dear friend of mine who you know, was very happy to catch up with, but that I had to stuff my heart back down my throat after that incident
Mm,
because sometimes you get sometimes just speaking personally here, sometimes I can get so wrapped up in my in something that I'm writing that it just I just get blinders on. Like I just totally get blinders on. And this is writing fiction.
right.
And this is writing fiction. I mean, I'm in the midst of writing my memoir right now, and there's a lot that that I haven't even come close to approaching yet. And yeah, there's just I guess you could call me a method writer. I don't know.
I think it's the best kind of method because it's not just writing for the writing's sake. It's there's healing happening as you're, like you said, you're creating these stories, but you're basing it so much on your own life experiences that, I love how you said, like, for your parents, you were sort of rewriting how you would have wanted their ending to be, kind
Yeah.
of that redemption arc, right? And you're also processing through things,
Yeah.
I love it. And I love that you said that you write to music because I also find music a very powerful medium for allowing things to come through. Like, I love to put on like some real dark music, like some Radiohead, and just like explore some darker poetry. I like
Right.
writing poetry, but a lot of my poetry is very positive, like channeling positive messages for the world. But every once in a while, like I just like to indulge into like the darker side of things, and I don't know, it just feels good.
I I really get that. I really get that. It's like it's like just to get totally metaphysical here, but it's like I could feel my my dad kind of speaking to me through like what types of music that I choose to listen to just on a daily basis or when I'm writing, because the thing that like what I write is going to be a lot different if I'm listening to like Miles Davis as compared to like Led Zeppelin or something, or like Pink Floyd or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a huge fan of Pink Floyd. Yeah.
Oh
Love
yeah,
some Pink Floyd. It's like it's so easy to get into like a certain kind of like mood. Um that just feels like a healthy indulgence.
yeah, yeah. You feel a certain way after listening to Dark Side of the Moon.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And my mom just passed away a couple of weeks ago, and she was a huge fan of music. So, like, part of my therapeutic process is listening to the music she loved. So she was, in the 60s and early 70s, like, she for a portion of time was waitressing in New York City in the Village because she could be more close to like following Bob Dylan. She saw the first tour that Pink Floyd did where they played Dark Side of the Moon from beginning to end, like the whole
Oh wow.
album. So she saw them, I think, somewhere in New York City. I want to say Radio City, but I'm not sure if that was exactly where it was. But yeah, so like when I was little, my parents used to listen to the radio in the mornings. So like they didn't watch TV in the mornings. They didn't watch the news. They listened to classic rock, 102.7, which is like a New York based radio station. So I hear those songs and it's like flashbacks to my childhood and like just that like good feeling. So those songs are so therapeutic for me. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah, 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 totally. Like I was one of the like I we're close in age. I was one of the few people in my high school who had who had heard who knew who Emerson Lake and Palmer was, and like I loved like one of my dad's favorite was Earth, Wind and Fire.
Mm-hmm.
I titled my first book after an Earth, Wind and Fire song.
Mm-hmm.
So, James Brown at the Apollo Theater. I was one of the few kids in my high school that had ever heard that.
Right.
So, yeah, yeah, just I've got a lot of beautiful memories around, listening to the Beatles and
Oh,
stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Who's your
No,
favorite Beatle?
I'm a Paul. Admittedly, I'm a Paul guy,
How can
but
you not be?
yeah,
Yeah. How can you not be? My
yeah.
my mom's favorite was George Harrison. So listening to George Harrison also super therapeutic because I just
Now, I have to admit, George's "All Things Must Pass" may be my favorite Beatles solo album.
phew, it's
That album
powerful.
is a masterpiece. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, don't listen to that song without tissues, however.
No kidding.
So yeah, and I that's so exciting because that is like a nerd out thing for me. Like I can remember anytime we brought up any artist from the 60s or 70s, my mom had like this crazy memory for like who they played with and like all those bands that like shared different players, like Jefferson Airplane and like that whole progression. She loved Jorma Kaukonen, Hot Tuna. So like we went to see music. So my parents have seen tons of live music in their in their marriage with each other. They were married 46 years, and when we were kids, like we would go see music. We would listen to all this music. They would play albums for us. And we saw, I think we've seen Hot Tuna in the recent past a bunch of times. We used to go see musicians at the Blue Note in the city. Like so, like music was such a huge piece of my childhood. It's like coming home to me every time I hear the songs. It's like, how many times have I heard these songs that I know I don't necessarily know all the lyrics, but the guitar solos can just play in my head, and like I can remember where I was when I heard these songs. I remember sitting at the kitchen table when I was like 5 and eating oatmeal and listening to
Oh
the
yeah.
music on the radio.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've got an amazing story. Like I said, my dad was like really close to really like making some big waves in the music business, but his band opened up for this was at Memorial Coliseum in Tuscaloosa, now known as Coleman Coliseum. But his band opened up for a little up and coming English rock and roll band called Led Zeppelin once upon a time.
Stop it. That's
Hmm.
amazing.
And um, and and my dad um, got to play John Paul Jones's keyboard setup, and said it was just like magic. I mean, like their monitor system, their floor monitor system was so. I think he told me was their monitor system was so good he could hear a mouse fart.
Love it.
But yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's kind of and he also something I don't really understand to this day, but there was also a connection that he had with the Grateful Dead, that I kind of wish I could ask him. But yeah, no, yeah, music. If you, I mean, if you're watching this right now, if you haven't read Hello Again, there's going to be there's going to be some references to some of the finest music ever made in that book.
Oh, I'm excited. Now I'm really excited.
Oh, totally.
I can't wait. I can't wait to finish reading it. So, oh my gosh, this is like what I love about doing this because we can just nerd out on so many different topics, and music is a huge one for me. So, I want to give you some time to talk about the things you have going on because you've got some really awesome projects. I'm going to link up everything in the show notes so y'all can just listen to Ryan eloquently share all the stuff he has going on and some offers. So go for it.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Kelly, thank you so much for having me today. This has been a real treat to spend part of my birthday just nerding out, mystically nerding out, I guess. Um, but one of the things that I'm currently enrolling for is I'm putting together a collaborative book. Now, this collaborative book is called Return to the Blues. Now, this is not necessarily about music. However, one of the things that I think a lot of people who aren't quite as music nerdy as the two of us are is that most of modern popular music, really all of modern popular music, was based on the blues, was based on guys like Robert Johnson and Rosetta Tharpe and Muddy Waters and BB King, all those people. it's like the basis of all modern popular music. It's the basics.
Hmm.
And during the pandemic, during the shutdown, during just all of the pain that we have as a collective have had over the past couple of years, a lot of people have had to strip their life down to the bare wood and really get down to basics and rebuild their lives from the basics. And I want to feature in this book, I want to feature people who have had to do that, who have had to just strip their lives down and start over from the basics, return to their blues.
Mm.
And this is something I'm incredibly excited about. I think we can have some really powerful stories featured in this book. It's something that we're recording this in the middle of March, of course, but I'm going to be accepting applications for this through the end of April. And I trust you'll link to the application in the show notes. Um, but this is going to be the first in a series of collaborative books, and really based off of um, musical metaphors, let's say.
I love it.
Yeah, no, and all I'm going to say is that first one's going to be about the blues. The next one is going to be about jazz.
Sweet.
Yes, but um, but that's going to be coming out end of October. But get your applications in now. All the information is going to be in the application. So definitely check that out. If you're interested in working with me, I'm as a writing coach and as a publisher, just shoot me an email at royalheartscoaching@gmail.com. Um, and yeah, and just like you said, I've got I've been publishing. I am the credited publisher of Hello Again, which is something that I'm crazy excited about. We just released a really powerful recovery memoir called A Girl from Southern Boulevard at the end of January. And I've got one coming out at kind of in the middle of May. That's it's a really raunchy children's book satire.
That's a genre.
That's a genre. That's a genre and a half right there, my friend. But it's gonna be coming out in the middle of May. The manuscript is hilarious.
Love it.
And but if you're interested in working with me, in letting me, trusting me in, editing and publishing your work, to shoot me an email and I'll be happy to connect with you. I also have a podcast of which you were a gracious guest with me about a year or so ago, called Solar Powered, SOUL-R. And I'm getting close to 100 episodes on that. I have a guest in mind that I want for my 100th episode that scares me, but
Awesome.
but when I'm able to secure this interview, it will not only be exciting for 45-year-old Ryan, but it'll be exciting for 10-year-old Ryan. And
Ooh,
that's
the
all I'm going to
intrigue.
say about that. Yes, that's all I want to say about that. But yeah, no, I've got a lot of slashes, got a lot of stuff going on. You can find me on the social media machine, and yeah, I think that's about it.
That's all. I love it, and I'm so excited for you. I think, we get to be multi passionate. We get to have lives that are not checking off boxes and filling the boxes. So you can't pinpoint us down. We're going to do all kinds of weird stuff that surprises you. I think
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
that's the new entrepreneur. It can't tie
Indeed.
me down.
You can't square peg that kind of thing.
No. No. Mystic nerd, like it's just I made it up. It's a thing. Creative license, right?
There
So,
you
oh my
go.
gosh. I really encourage you, if you're listening, if you're watching, if you're catching this in the replay, connect with Ryan, follow him on all the social medias. Everything will be in the show notes. Check out this project he has coming up. It sounds amazing. I'm really excited for you. And a collaborative writing. If you are a writer and you're a little, intimidated about the prospect of writing a whole book, number one, right here beside me, is somebody who can kind of help you with getting through that process. But number two, participating in a collaborative work is such a great way to do it. I did 4 last year, and it was a really cool process.
Yeah, it really is. Just a shout out to my dear friend Liz Hill, who was the publisher on 2 collaborative projects that I was a part of in the last year and a half or so. And she's kind of the reason she kind of talked me into getting into the publishing thing, and I'm just took the ball and ran with it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think people can feel like they're in a safe space, even if you feel like you don't know how to produce a published work. That part of these projects is that ability to have somebody coaching you through the process of polishing your work. So, yeah,
Indeed. Yeah,
yeah,
because it can be intimidating.
yeah.
It can be intimidating knowing that you're going to be writing something so like personal to you that um that is going to be read by human eyes. That can be intimidating, but it doesn't have to be.
No,
You've got people out there like myself who can coach you, who can hold your hand through this to get a story out there that's going to change the world. Because, as Robin Williams said in Dead Poet Society, my favorite actor of all time, and I still haven't been able to watch that movie since he passed away. Um, but just my favorite quote of his from that movie was, "Never forget, words and ideas can change the world. Your words, your ideas can change the world. You may need some help getting it out there, but it needs to be out there. It needs to live."
I agree with you 100%. Yeah. So connect with Ryan, even if it's just to have a conversation if you're interested, and I know from watching Ryan, seeing the different projects he's in, spending some time with him virtually, being on his podcast. If you're into podcasting and guesting, Ryan's is a great one. I can speak from experience, and I just wish you the happiest birthday, a great
Thank you.
45 year. That's what I'm working on. I don't know what you're supposed to be doing in your 45 year, but I'm doing it. But I hope you have a great day. And thank you so much for coming on, sharing your heart. And I hope we've sort of gotten people's curiosity piqued with writing as a process for healing.
Absolutely. And Kelly, this has been a true honor. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to connecting with you and with all y'all in the future.
Absolutely. And please come back when your projects are released to come share with us. We would love to have that.
I will take your word on that one.
Absolutely. All right. Have a good one, guys. Thanks for joining us. Bye now.